Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So nobody's having issues seeing the screen from where you're at? That's good. And Sandy, you got the documents I sent you okay?
Yes, I
This is Bennett Krause from IDS.
Hi, Bennett.
This is
Mike.
Evelyn Losher from IDES.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do a roll call here in a moment. We'll give Bob another minute or two to get here into the office at Lincoln Land, and then we'll get started. Live? Live and in person. Okay, we'll give one more minute, then we'll get underway. Chelsea, can you scroll down the participants and show us who was online? Okay. Online. All right, well, it's almost 5 after, so let's go ahead and get underway. Everyone should be able to see the agenda in the middle screen of your computer. Sandy, at this point, I'll turn it over to you. As chairman of the task force, do you have any opening remarks you'd like to make? Then after, well, let's back up. We have welcome introductions first, so we'll handle that, and then we'll turn it over to Sandy for opening remarks. So if you could, there are 4 of us here in Springfield that are sitting here live, and everyone else is doing the online version. So if you could, slowly enough so that we can grab the name and what organization you're with, let us know who's online, and then we'll go over a couple of housekeeping chores, housekeeping items after that. So if we could, just one at a time, take turns telling us who you are and who you're with, please.
Well, this is Sandy Moldovan. I'm the chair of this illustrious task force from the private sector. I'm with CGN and Associates, and located with a home office in Peoria and Chicago and different locations. And I just want to just say that if you ever want to be the chair of a task force, you need to have Bob Sheets and Mike Baker on that task force, because then your workload becomes much better.
Oh, that's scary. Thank you. Next, please.
Bennett Krause from the Illinois Department of Employment Security, Director of Employer and Community Outreach.
Evelina Losher from IDES, Economic Information and Analysis, and I believe Mitch is there in person.
You are correct.
Thank you.
Joanne,
IDES.
Okay. If anyone is on speakerphone, I don't know if anyone else heard that amazing feedback. It sounded like a Who concert for a second.
You're dating yourself?
Hey, you need to make sure your computer is muted if you're on speakerphone.
Okay,
This is Jay O'Connor from IDES in central office.
Jay O'Connor.
Rosario Casada from IDES, DeKalb office.
Theodore Duckett, Rockford, IDES office.
Jack Porter, IDEF, Northern Region.
Connection helps job seekers and employers connect.
Remind them to
Yeah, if we could ask folks to please
their computer.
mute your microphone. There's significant feedback for radio commercial there. Thank you. Yeah, the tech person here tells us that if you have speakerphone and your speakers both going at the same time, that can result in significant feedback. Okay, we left off with Ted Duckett.
This is April Marcus, IDES Director's Office.
Has computers and fax machines to help build and send a resume. If you need to visit our facility, free public parking is available by entering the parking garage on Wyman Street.
We'll try and see how it goes here. Okay. Okay, we have a few more folks that appear to be online that haven't spoken yet, so. Okay, Chelsea, can you give us an overview, like, is there a chat window that people can type questions into?
Yeah, right here on the left where it says everyone.
Okay. Okay, there
She has, Michael, she has to speak up or get closer to the microphone.
Okay, how's that? We repositioned the phone.
That's fine for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was just explaining what Chelsea mentioned to me. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see a chat window. It says chat 5 everyone at this point. If you have a question, you can, or a comment, you can type it into that window and everyone will see it, and we'll respond to those as they come in. Is there anyone else left that would like to introduce themselves? Okay, then we'll go around the room here in Springfield. Starting to my left, we have
Yvonne Nelson with the Illinois Community College Board.
and
Bob Keith, Department of Commerce.
Mitch Samuels of IDES.
Laura Dom, DCO.
Okay. Okay, thank you, everyone. Well, we appreciate everyone joining us today. Sandy, would you like to make any opening comments at this time?
Yeah, I'll keep them real short, Michael. I appreciate everybody taking the time to do this. For the, webinars are becoming a very commonplace way to do this meeting. In addition to what Michael suggested, if you need to make sure you mute your speaker on your computer, and also it is helpful if you could mute your telephone if you're not speaking. That'll cut the feedback down significantly. So if you've got a mute on your phone, it would be helpful if you do that too. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here and appreciate this. We're going to try to keep this meeting to an hour or less, and then we have one additional meeting. And I would kind of reserve the right, Michael, to say a few words when we close. That'd be okay.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Well, let's jump right in then. Chelsea, can we switch to the PowerPoint, please? Okay, we'll just follow along with the PowerPoint here, and we'll jump back to the agenda as needed. Go to the next slide. Here we go. The goals for today are very simple. That is to make sure everyone is comfortable and understands the process that we're going to go through to create the state plan. And we'll review the major themes, which include the governor's vision and the labor market information that will feed into the plan, and then go over our next steps that we'll go through as a group to get this project done on time and under budget. Okay. Next slide, please. The big reason we're doing this is required by the law. Each state has to have its own strategic plan, and purpose of that, beyond it being statutorily required, is to explain to the Department of Labor and key stakeholders in the state and the citizens at large what the overarching service delivery strategy is for workforce development in the state. So basically, this lays out where we think the workforce system needs to go in the next few years, the next 2 to 3, 4, 5 years, and lays out how we're going to get there. So that's it in a nutshell. Now, we sent out the existing state plan to everyone. If anyone did not get a copy of it, it is out on the DCO website. But if anyone would like a copy of it, please let me or Laura know, and we can get that to you. And it's not a quick read, but it is the last version that's out there. The base plan that is in existence now was created in 2002. It was the original plan after WIA was enacted in 1998. The plan has been modified several times since then, but the same base plan that was originally created for the WIA program is still in existence, and has just been updated a few times since then. The last major update was for the Recovery Act in 2009, which was a significant modification. DOL provided us with significant guidance on things they were looking for, on how we were going to adapt the workforce system for the needs of the economy at the time, and how we were going to make effective use of the Recovery Act funding that was distributed to Illinois, both from the WIA and the Wagner pilot side. So, in a nutshell, there's a plan that's out there, was last updated 3 years ago, but the baseline plan that it was built off of goes all the way back 10 years. So we're definitely due for an update, and a big update hasn't been done till now because DOL has not required states to do one. However, for this year, DOL issued new streamlined guidance and asked all the states to update their plans. So this is the first time since DOL has said that we want to see a new plan from everybody. Until now, I think both the states and DOL were content to extend the plan or tweak it as needed. But it's been 10 years, and at this point, they're asking everyone for a completely new document. So that's why this group has been convened together through IWIB to make sure that we get all of the elements in there that need to be, and have engagement with all the groups that we need to have to make sure the document is as comprehensive as is necessary, both in the eyes of the State Workforce Board and Department of Labor.
Hey, Mike, you might mention or might explain to the group why this is such an intense timeline, why this is a fire drill.
Okay, yeah, the timeline, and we will go over the timeline here in a slide up ahead, but essentially DOL provided us with updated guidance on how they want the plan structured, and it was laid out in 2 Tegels that have been provided to you. And the deadline for submitting the plan to DOL is September 15th. And that includes a 30-day period for public review and comments. So that means this group needs to have its work done in time to put that document out and make it available for comment, and give 30 days for that to happen before we submit it to DOL, and also approval for IWIB.
Actually,
I guess I was more interested not in in what the timeline is. I know there's a slide on that, but why it is so short? Why didn't we have 6, 8, 10 months to do this?
Well, that is the way DOL issues their guidance. They never give us the amount of time we'd like to have and need to have, but, you know, that is kind of what we are left with, so that's the way it works, unfortunately.
So I guess the answer is that we just got the request from DOL, and that's the timeline.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
that's what I needed. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next slide. Okay, and again, as alluded to in Teagle 2111, the due date is September 15th. That falls on a Saturday, so we have a little wiggle room there. But the date mentioned in the Teagle is the 15th, so that's what we're putting on things. In the new planning guidance, and again, it's a streamlined planning guidance from what existed prior to this. They provided 3 options for structuring the plan. One was to have a very comprehensive plan that every conceivable partner came together and made their plan part of this plan. So basically it would be one all comprehensive plan for everybody. Okay? And then there was another middle ground option to include more stakeholders than less. And then the option we've selected, which is the one that makes most sense for Illinois, is to have it include WIA and Wagner-Peiser and also the Wagner-Peiser Agriculture Outreach Plan. This is the, given the time frame that we have available to us and the level of partnership between the agencies and stakeholders, this is what we could pull together and still meet the deadline and have a good, robust plan in place. So that's the direction we're going. Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you say WIA, you are referring to Title I?
Correct.
Yep.
Just checking.
Yep.
Okay.
And then also it includes, they've asked as part of the guidance a description for trade activities. So that will also be included. And then also any waiver requests that we want to extend through the program or any new waiver ideas that we would like to request. So all of those things will be in the plan as we move forward. Next slide. So there are 3 main components in the state plan. The first one is a narrative on the governor's strategic vision for the economy and the overarching goals of the system. Now this includes, WIA, Wagner-Peiser, other key other key partners. So basically, how is the overall workforce system going to align itself to make the most use of limited resources and have the greatest return on investment for impacting the state's economy, making sure that we have workers with the right skills, and also we're reacting and meeting the needs of employers that are out there. And Bob Sheets is going to speak to that vision statement here in a few minutes. The next key component is an operational plan. Here's where they ask us to follow up and describe. In part 1, we kind of tell them where we want to go. In part 2, we're going to tell them how it is we plan to get there. And then part 3 for assurances is the most boring part of the plan. And basically, it's a checklist of items that we have in place to make sure that we're following the statutory and regulatory requirements of the Act. So, yeah, thank you. So what are the planning considerations that we have to think about as we're putting this together? On the workforce side, there's a policy emphasis on alignment of for state and regional economic development. How are the different programs going to align and make sure that nothing slips through the cracks and we're not stepping on each other's toes, but we're each knowing what each program's what is in each program's wheelhouse and how we're going to make those programs work most effectively and most efficiently to provide services to our customers. And speaking of customers, again, a dual customer focus. We have to serve employers to make sure we're providing a workforce that meets their needs. But on the other hand, we're also wanting to make sure that we help people overcome any barriers to employment they may have so that they can get a good paying job and become part of the workforce or increase their station in the workforce and then you get a better job than the one they have now. Okay. Again, we want this all to be evidence-based, demand-driven. It's great to do things that feel good but may not necessarily have an impact. We want to make sure we're doing things, investing the resources that we have in a way that most dramatically have an impact. Again, the greatest return on investment is the best way to describe that. And then also we want to make sure that people that are in training that training is meaningful to us, and we understand that by taking that training, you have the proper skill sets that we need, and they will be hopefully more readily welcomed into the workforce. And then also consultation with stakeholders, and that's part of the effort to have this group to be a little bit wide-ranging, is to make sure that we have reached out to the core constituent groups that we have to make sure that issues of concern to them are heard and are incorporated into the plan to the extent possible. Okay. And again, if anyone has questions as we go along, feel free to jump in. Okay. Okay. Next slide.
She already did
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry, you did. Okay. So in section 1 of the plan, when we get it drafted, will be the broad goals for the state, and again, that includes the high-level governor's vision. Where do we think we're going to go? An analysis of the economy and the workforce as it exists today, and then our strategies that we intend to employ to address the needs that we have in the state, and then also identify the outcomes that we're looking for and how we're going to measure those outcomes to see how we met them. Next one. Section 2, again, is the state operational plan. And as you can see, there's about more than half a dozen items that we need to address in that operational plan, including the role of the state board, the not the role, but the makeup of the local areas. For those of you who may not know, we've had a significant consolidation of workforce areas in Chicago. We, until June 30, had 26 workforce areas. Now we have 24. The 3 areas that were in Cook County are now consolidated into one very gigantic workforce area. And I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, it is, we believe, the largest in the country now. So that's a very significant development that we'll need to make sure we talk about and speak to that in our state plan. And you guys can see the rest of this list. I don't need to read those to you, but these are the items that we have to address as we put this plan together, because DOL is going to be looking for these items and see how it is that we address them in writing. Okay. And again, there's that list of assurances. That's basically a checklist that we just mark down. Yes, we have a policy on procurement. Yes, we have certified workforce areas, et cetera. So, what's that?
And we attach it.
Yes, it serves as an attachment to the document. And here's that dreaded timeline. So July 16th is the first bullet point. That's this meeting. Over the next weeks until August 2nd, those of us here on staff will be busily drafting and reviewing and getting that material together. And then we'll provide that back out to the task force in time for that August 2nd meeting. And then at that meeting, we're hoping to get feedback from all of you as to, does it look like we've addressed the things that need to be addressed? Are there issues that you want to make sure that get covered? And basically, we're just counting on you to be our review team of experts to make sure that the things that need to be there are there. Yes,
So from the 15th of August or the 13th, it goes out for public comment.
Yes, right after, yeah, if you follow down to the next stop point, between August 2nd and August 6th, we'll be looking at any feedback we get from the task force, and if any changes need to be made or things need to be added, we will take care of that at that time. And then the plan is to put it out for public comment on August 6th. And then that will give that 30-day period for public comment, and then we'll get it back to the IWIB. The task force will recommend the IWIB approve that, hopefully, and then the IWIB will vote on that at their September 13th meeting. And then that'll give us a couple of days to submit it to DOL by the deadline. So it is a tight time frame, but thank goodness that due to the more streamlined guidance that that DOL provided to states this year. We're looking at a 30 to 50 page document this time, not a 200 to 300 page document this time. So it will be much more streamlined and comprehensive and concise at the same time compared to the plan that's out there now.
And Mike, also the public comments will be listed for the IWIB, but not incorporated into changes of the plan.
Right, exactly. Because that'll be a little bit of overlap there, but those comments will be attached to the plan. Okay. Any questions on the timeline? Okay, next slide. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob Sheets and Mitch when it's time for him to step in. He'll give us the review of the vision, and then we'll go over the LMI data that's going to be part of the plan. So off to you, Bob.
Okay, so at this stage, if you remember that dreaded time frame, what we're trying to do is kind of run by the task force members today some of the high-level points of the proposed governor's vision and the LMI plan to get your input. Then we can commit it to text and have it ready for the August 2nd meeting. But again, when we talk about the vision thing, we're only talking about 2 to 3 pages at the most. Very high-level statement that provides the frame for the operational plan later on. So don't think of it as a vision thing that's 20 pages or something, single space. Think of it as a set of big overarching ideas that provide the framework for things that come later. And so think of it as some bullet points, some bullet items with some headings, again, with more of a framework. So if you look on the slide that we have up there now, slide 15, I also want to, I'm sure you've got it etched in your memory, but back on slide 9, remember that where it had all those policy emphasis areas that Mike went over? Those are the things that we think DOL will be looking for in the vision and all that kind of statements all the way through. So they'll have their little checklist that says, what did you all say about that dual customer thing? What did you all say about that? So we always like to think about the emphasis areas that DOL put out, which again are on slide 9, and if you really want to read the guidance, you can actually read it. But we thought you'd want to just see the bullet points of the guidance. Think about that, and then trying to match it up with what Illinois, what's going on in Illinois, especially what the IWIB's been involved with. So we bring those two together, not contort what Illinois wants to say, but make sure wherever we can make touching points to the emphasis areas. So that was kind of like the idea, and what we're going to talk about now is the general ideas for the vision statement. If you look on slide 15, what you'll see are the EPA required elements in the vision thing. So you got to have some overarching goals. You got to have some general direction on strategic initiatives. You got to have some sort of integrated services. You have to have employers and economic development for youth and adults. And then you, most importantly, I want to highlight, you need to say what are the methods by which you're going to carry out joint planning and coordination going forward in executing the plan. So those are kind of like the required elements. So when you put slide 15 together with slide 9, think about that in the back of your head. Here's what the general idea is for crafting the vision statement. First of all, focus on the overarching vision and goals, talking about aligning the 3 things, economic, workforce, and education, to accomplish 2 big, broad, overarching goals that reflect the dual customer focus required in ETA, but I think also the dual customer focus we've been doing in Illinois, which is dealing with employer and economic development side, the demand side, as well as expand opportunities for both youth and adults. Now, again, we have to write that out in a way that's acceptable to everybody. But then we're proposing a series of strategies that reflect what we're doing, but also hit some of those required areas. First of all, as you all know, we've had in Illinois, it's reflected in our IWIB task forces and the Illinois Pathways Initiative, which in some way built off of those. We've always had this sector focus. So the idea is the best way to meet employer and economic development needs is focus on key sectors critical to the economic development of the Illinois economy, and then meet employer needs in that area. The next 2, if you're on the legislative task force, this is not anything new. The idea was, with Tom Ashby's leadership, focus heavily on the mechanism by which we do the sector focus, and everything we do in Illinois should require public-private partnerships to leverage both public-private investment for key investment initiatives. And the other thing that was also in the legislative task force came out in the bullet points was, remember they talked about administrative flexibility. Here's DWell saying we recommend administrative flexibility. So the way we would operationalize, we propose, would be to focus on the need for flexibility in how you bring together different tools in education and training funding. And that's what we've been focused on in our waiver authority, which we focused on incumbent worker, class size programs, more OJTs. We basically said we need to put together flexible packages to meet employer and individual needs going forward. And that's the way it's stated in the legislative task force, at least the last version up to today's meeting. Then the other one is employer job seeker services. That's more like a placeholder there to talk about the Wagner-Pizer activities coming from IDES and how it fits into the larger scheme. The last one on data-driven solutions is a combination of their emphasis on using, they talk about evidence-based practice, remember, in their guidelines. But think about the LMI stuff, which they said we need to make better use of LMI. That's an emphasis area. But also we have 2 or 3 large investments, including WDQI, which deals with providing information to people to improve services. So the idea is to take data-driven solutions and make that LMI and the use of data to improve services like state longitudinal data, WDQI. So that's the strategies, and then methods for joint planning and coordination. And we're proposing 2. First of all, to say the IWIB is the principal mechanism for carrying out and coordinating the joint planning areas. But also we have the Illinois Pathways Initiative that makes our connection between workforce and education. And when I say Illinois Pathways, that includes reference to the P20 Council. So the idea would be to have 2 methods for joint planning and coordination. One is the IWIB, which brings together economic, workforce, and education, but also the Illinois Pathways, which takes it and extends it to more of a sector-based approach tied to the P20 Council. Anyway, that's the proposal. Now, all that imagine in 2 pages or 3 pages. So anyway, that's what we're proposing to write up for the vision statement. I don't know, comments? Comment? No, about this. No, we don't. I don't want to open you up to comments in general about it. We got to keep this within the boundary.
So if anyone has a question or comment, now's the time where you get to type it into the chat window.
Well, it covers the basis we've been working. You're right, it covers the focus we have in Illinois already.
It really describes pretty much what we're doing now. We've already committed to, but it also connects it to the emphasis areas that DOL laid out there. So you have to walk back, go. It's not a perfect fit, but it's close enough. In my opinion, it's close enough. So it's nothing new here, really. It's just kind of putting things under headings that match up to their emphasis areas. But again, I'm assuming the plan should reflect what we're already doing and what we're committed to carrying forward, at least in the short run. And also I want to reflect the emerging themes coming up out of other task forces, which the legislative task force is the most recent. But remember, we've had sector task forces, we have an ongoing WDQI effort. So I want to make sure that what we're doing now and things that have come up out of other IWIB-related task forces get factored in here. Because really the Pathways is, to me, an extension of the sector-based task forces we've had since DIRT.
Right. And really, there's not right now, that at least I'm aware of, a document that pulls together everything we've been working on under one overarching development. The WIA annual report captures the WIA side and those things that we've been working on the last year. But again, that's a look back, whereas the state plan is intended to be a look forward.
I also have to make sure that we're saying things consistent with what we submitted for the Workforce Innovation Fund proposal too. So, right.
So then these are just going to be broad, the detail will not be in this vision.
Imagine every one of those strategies would have, would it be a dot point with a couple sentences, that you all will receive the sentences, and then let's say we're going to go out on the 27th with a draft of everything. And so then you would have to August 2nd to quibble with the wording. But we just want to make sure people were comfortable with these as general headings or themes, general headings for strategies, and that these are the two methods we would list for coordinated planning across economic, workforce, and education.
I can't think of anything we're doing that doesn't fall under one of these categories.
They're big buckets,
Yeah,
basically.
I mean,
Because in the pathways, we would list shifting gears, which is already listed under there.
so, yeah.
I think I deadened the crowd, Mike.
Yeah, I think, there we
I
go.
shut it all down, Mike.
All right. Okay, well, there appear to be no questions or comments beyond the bond at this time, so
Good.
the next part of the plan.
Are we assuming that everybody's okay with it, or were they going to send comments on?
Okay, we'll just do a last call here. Could everyone please indicate either verbally or in the chat window if you're comfortable with the strategy that Bob laid out, or if not, we can
Email to you.
Yeah, you can let us know either through an email or a follow-up conversation. But if you do have an issue with it, please let us know by, say, noon tomorrow.
Multiple
Typing right now.
Okay.
Mike, this is Sandy. That brings up a good point. If somebody does, because Bob kind of feeds you with a shovel, and I'm a little more used to a spoon. But if anybody does want to comment on this via email, who should they do it to? Is this to you or to Paul, or who should be the central repository of the emails?
You should send a copy, me, and also copy Saul and Laura. It's saul.sanchez@illinois.gov and laura.dom, D-H-O-M, @illinois.gov, and me, michael.baker@illinois.gov.
Yeah, everybody should have actually had those emails in the list of in the distribution list you sent out earlier.
Exactly. And then we'll funnel out emails and forward those to the appropriate individuals as we go forward if necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, we got enough to go.
Yeah. Next one, we can go ahead. And then, Chelsea, can you put up the documents for, that have the data on it that I sent you? Like this? Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, so we're working now to put up the LMI data that Mitch provided to us, and then he's going to have a more robust discussion of those here for you as soon as Chelsea gets it loaded up. And I asked for this to be distributed to everybody. If anybody wants a hard copy of this or wants it in email, please let me know, and we'll get it to you. And I'm not really going to speak directly to those. Comes up front, and as Mike and Bob both mentioned, there's more of an emphasis on good use of LMI in these plans than there has been in past plans. But this LMI section always has been sort of a transition from your vision, what's going on in your state, what are their projections for the future, and analyze, give some data on all the things then that are going to follow in your operational plan. So I can tell you right now, I've already seen a couple spots where I know there's going to be additional things in the operational plan that we may have to add a bullet point or a paragraph in the LMI section to address. I want to make sure we address the top 5 pathways. I'm sure we got 3 or 4 of them. We may have missed one. I think the one we may have missed is agriculture. and maybe, so that there's one piece there we need to add in this very first draft. But, as in all the plans in the past, we start off by laying out Illinois compared to the nation. The nation lost 6.4% of its payroll employment during the Great Recession. Illinois was at a slightly higher rate of 6.9. We were hardest hit in manufacturing, professional business services, trade, transportation, and construction. Then we're thinking about having a little section that talks about, since those losses during the recession, how has the recovery, at least the employment recovery, which really started much later than the economic recovery, how has that gone so far? Leading off with a statement on education and health services, again during this recession, it was the only section that continued to gain jobs through the recession, and it continued to gain jobs then through this employment recovery. That was mostly on the health services side. But then to talk about so far in the recovery, professional and business services and I believe leisure and hospitality are the two sectors that have regained the largest percentage of their payroll. Manufacturing's recovery also was very strong. Manufacturing took a very big hit during the recession, so we talk about that a little bit. Then to get that regional piece, if you were to focus on which of the economic development regions, the EDRs, did the best, the key there is manufacturing. All of those that have a big manufacturing base are the ones that have had the most successful recovery. North Central, which is the Peoria metro area, Northeast, which is the Chicago, Naperville, Joliet metro area, and Northern State Line, which includes the Rockford metro area. Those are all the ones that have had the most pronounced recovery so far. Then we kind of transition to that first chart, which is the occupational employment projections ranked by the high demand occupations. And this is not at the very detailed level. This is at one summary level up, so it includes more of the economy than as you look down the list. The one thing we emphasize here is, there's many of the occupations that rank by most annual average job openings include some of the lower skilled jobs in food service prep, in retail sales, but it also includes a lot of the high demand occupations also include the middle skill level and the high skill level. Teachers, health practitioners, computer specialists, some of the higher end manufacturing production occupations. And even though, for example, manufacturing is a declining industry overall, it's not growing at the rate it was. In fact, it's experiencing some negative growth in the future. All the replacement needs create a number of annual job openings that are, just as I said, middle skill or high skill level positions. After that initial introduction, I've got to say, the feds and the bullet points they want us to address in LMI got a little weird here. They went after a lot of things that aren't part of the regular data collection process that are difficult to answer. One of the first ones, an assessment of the workplace skills and knowledge individuals need to find current and future employment mistakes, particularly those skills and knowledge identified by employers as necessary for economic growth. The one way to look at that, you still don't have the... Yeah, apologies to folks that are online. We're having some technical difficulties getting this document to display. So if anyone does not have it, that it wasn't sent to them via email, please let me know, and we will provide it to you later this afternoon so you can have it in front of you. So put it all in context. The section I just started, I can skip for a second and come back to give it a little more time. Before I look at that chart, the bullet point after that, a description of the characteristics and needs of the state's population and diverse subpopulations, including those from racial, ethnic, linguistic, older persons, and individuals with disabilities. That's where we really relied on the 2010 census and the 2010 American Community Survey. And we break out the population, male, female, by race, by ethnic group, by Hispanic or Latino. We have a real short paragraph on language spoken about by Illinois residents. Another on those people with disabilities and break down the population by the different disabilities. And then a final section from the census on the population in the prime working years, the 25 to 54 range. There's some mention, though, of the 55 to 64, and also some mention of the 65 and older, given how things changed during the Great Recession. A lot of people nearing retirement did not retire because of part of their lost nest egg, and a lot of the people over 65 also stayed working because of their retirement, their individual retirement picture changing right then when the recession hit. Then we thought it worth in the tail end of this section, talk a little bit about labor force participation rate. A lot of states' unemployment rate goes down because a lot of people give up and leave the labor force. That has not been the case in Illinois. We've had some small fluctuations, some a little bit, where the labor force rate has dipped a couple of tenths, 3 or 4 tenths. We've always rebounded a month or two later, and we've always stayed, right in a pretty tight band, so that when our unemployment rate goes down, it's because people are going to work. It's really not because people are leaving the labor force. There may be 1 or 2 months where, based on that month's survey, we could hypothesize that it was due to people leaving the labor force. But really, when you look at 10 or 12 months together, there's really only 1 or 2 months where that appears to be the case in the data. And that's really, that's becoming a more discussed measure, especially at DOL too. So we thought it important to put that in. I'm sorry for those of you who don't have the graph, but I can describe it to you. That one about skill gap we're going to talk about, it takes...
She's got it.
Oh?
We'll get shortly.
Okay. This is the first one I spoke of that looks at the different occupational subgroups, not the real individual titles, but one level above that. And it's ranked by average annual job openings, that next to last column on the right. And so this would be your high demand jobs. And this is where you are going to see a mixture of some that are lower skilled and by that lower paid. And we could in fact add a column for median wage over to the right on this one. It may not be a bad idea for the final plan. But you'll also see several of these categories are the middle skill occupations.
Hey, could you just do a tag that says those requiring post-secondary or not? Or some training after, just not all those levels. Not all the 6 or how many levels there are. Just simple, it's either requires some training after or not.
Okay, so
because that would get rid of, so last might look real fast.
Yeah, this will actually be the last year that we're using those. We're going to switch to the new definitions for training and education time.
Okay. But I mean, just do a dichotomy that just because most of those at the top there would probably be would be in one category.
Yep. And this kind of ties into one of the next charts has the base year employment and what the education requirement was for that. And then also in the future projections out in 2018, how does that change? And we look at no high school diploma and a high school graduate. Those two categories between now and 2018 are going to add the two of them together about 300,000 jobs, but that's a really small percentage growth. No high school diploma is growing at about 7.5%, high school graduate growing at 5.7%. But then some college associate degree and bachelor's degree, those three added together, they're adding about 225,000 jobs, but the growth rate is right around 15%. And so there is kind of that skill gap. While we have a good basis of people with bachelor's degrees and associate's degrees, the demand for those is increasing, but not as fast as the supply is decreasing. And unfortunately, for many of those that have some college, that some college was misdirected and not really training in a high, they sat through some of the training in a high demand field. They really have some college experience in a non-high demand field. Let me switch back out of the text. We actually have a rough draft of the text that I'm kind of working from. The next one is we're asked an analysis of the challenge associated with the state's population attaining the education skills and training needed to obtain employment. And we can add some more here. I think this is one place where the group, the group here on the phone, I know, will have read several recent articles, several recent studies that may have slipped by us data geeks, but one of the examples we were going to use right off the top is based upon findings from the American Community Survey, which we just used in to answer an earlier question. The Center for Labor Market Studies at Northeastern University in Boston, and they are, for labor market analysis, especially for youth employment, that's the center that the nation turns to. They're the ones that always make that comment about how bad summer employment's going to be for youth. They're the ones that get a lot of press. They did a study for Illinois for one of the not-for-profit groups here in Illinois. The share of youth without a high school diploma in the nation is 13.7%. In Illinois, that percent is actually lower, 11.5. In the Chicago metro area outside the city, that share is actually 9.7. The problem in the city of Chicago is 15% above the national average. And one of the other things I thought, kind of really go from the vision and tie toward the plan was then to make a comment about long-term unemployment in Illinois. The national average number of weeks for unemployment is 39.3 in 2011. The Illinois average was 45.3. So that's one of those, that's one of the few numbers that there actually is enough survey response to have a reliable statistical number. Because a lot of people now are quoting the more than 52 weeks. That number is available in Illinois. We don't release it because it doesn't quite have the sample size that we feel necessary for reliability. But that's one number that we have out there that shows how we have an adult population with a real long-term unemployment situation going on. And then the last one, a discussion of the ability of the integrated workforce plan, which is the next section to come, how that meets the needs of employers in the state. Well, it was hard for us to do much with that question until the task force starts to work on that next one. So we had a few ideas there, but we didn't really develop those. for you, for everybody on the webinar, then this chart here is one that breaks down our population by their educational attainment level. Down at the bottom, you can comment on poverty by education level and also median wages. And you know, it's a frequently asked for table at the local level. At the local level, a lot of times you're relying on the American Community Survey, but they have to average 3 years worth of data to produce it for a county or a metro area, or they do a few cities that are of a certain size. And we just thought this was a good one to include too, given that skill gap question, where education level really is the driving force there. Any questions on LMI, or did I fill the audience more than Bob?
That would be impossible. Technically impossible. Can't go more than the floor.
Don't discount LMI. Right there. Yeah, he wants to stop a little higher so they can see that. Yeah, the poverty and the median wage numbers.
So everyone ought to be able to see the two pieces that Mitch was just speaking to.
Anything? Any questions at all?
Hey, Mitch, in terms of like connecting to the vision thing, I know you've seen some vision. Is there any way to kind of like reference the sector somehow in your opening stuff on demand or not?
Oh, to be more sector focused?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Like something like what you already did before, but I'm going to say these are meant to be like the high demand ones.
Yeah.
We kind of like just put headings. Does that make then say sectors then other? Does that make sense?
Oh, the sectors that they dominate? It'd almost be better to do an industry layout.
Okay, like
almost that same thing, but rank the industry growth.
Okay.
So the growth sectors.
Okay. Now I was thinking of the stuff you did for the working groups for the, remember?
Oh, yeah. That'd be saying which sectors these occupations are predominantly in. You can do that.
I'm just suggesting that the front end is going to say sector approach, building up, pathways, the sector task forces the IWIB. And then I'm not saying everything in here is by sector, but just say, then you could say is basically these initiatives will address the bulk of, the majority of opportunities. Not everything, obviously. But.
Yeah. And like I said before, there are at least, for one, at least agriculture needs to address more.
Yeah, but you may just want to put, I suppose you did all of them, and you may just want to put top 10 in each or something like it, or allocated, whatever you think makes sense.
Yeah. Now, Mitch, I think you were speaking to this a little bit earlier before we could have it. Do you want to take a minute or two to walk through this chart?
Go down then, yeah. You can see here that the dark bar to the left is the number of the jobs by education level. There you go. You can see the education levels. The number of jobs by education level in the base year versus the projected year, which for this set of projections is 2018, and it shows the growth in occupations by education level. And the number of jobs is fewer in those occupations that require post-secondary training, but it's a much faster rate of growth than the other areas. And if we added, we could actually, right above that box here, add the wage data here too.
Yeah.
The average wage by education level to show.
Yeah, and if you do, like you were going to put that column down that said education requirements, if you just cut it at high school or below, and then and then it matches that chart, which would be really cool.
And on this one too, we actually have the unemployment rate by these education levels.
That's wonderful.
Could have that.
So does anyone have any questions or comments on Mitch's information? So then we have a couple of questions that are possibly chat window.
Mike, this is Sandy. Did you say this was going to be sent out later?
Yes, to address Bennett's question, yeah, we will send out both the PowerPoint and Mitch's charts that he was speaking to everyone to make sure everyone. I thought they were sent out already, but in case anybody got missed, we'll make sure everybody has them.
The bottom left-hand corner, that guidance report on the bottom. Over there.
Okay, if you look in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, there's a yellow highlighted document. Those of you online should be able to click on that and get access to this document.
But also in that next version that comes out for their input before our next task force meeting, we'll actually have improved these and enhanced these. Address. And the operational plan is going to mostly be sector focused and pathways.
It's going to reflect the vision strategies.
Yeah.
So if you kind of connected your stuff to the strategy,
Yeah.
then you're pretty much.
And so then we can address that last dot point that we really haven't yet.
Yeah.
We'll try to do that.
And I mean, if you just put it popping up in more of a sector-based kind of thing, then you can just at the end just write short about these align to not everything, but.
Yeah. And maybe see that last bullet point that needs a real close read through then in our next review.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can do that.
Okay. And then Mary Casey asked, what is the deadline for participants to submit the material? So, Mary, are you speaking on behalf of the material you'll be turning in or everyone else?
She's.
All right.
No, won't be just talking about the time frames. I think that'll cover her.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, let's put this to next steps. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, no, in terms of,
Mary said everyone else.
Oh, okay. All right, well, we'll be doing some drafting here based on the material that we've spoken to today. So we'll be fleshing that out and then providing that out to everyone. So I don't know that there's really much material will be coming back that we're needing to incorporate. We'll be asking all of you to look at the material we're providing.
yeah, unless you have comments about Mitch's general overview about the kind of stuff that's going to go in there, and what I kind of went over, it may have been too much to respond to. But I think the most important thing is to give you kind of a heads up to get questions answered now. But we're expecting all the internal materials from the operational side. Laura, you said we're going to give you a draft sent out to everybody on the 27th of July. Is that right, Mike?
Right. And then to Amit's question, he's talking about employment security has language for several sections prepared. Mary Casey will be working with us to take all the material and put it together so it kind of speaks to one voice. So at this point, we'll be taking our material that we're working up, the material that employment security is working up, and then Mary's job will be to put that all together into a package.
Yeah, I'm going to work. I'm going to work with it, and then Mary's going to help with the editing and make it read right and everything like that. But Mike, in terms of all the internal stuff coming in, we're going out to 27. So my understanding, all the internal from DCO and IDS is due. I forgot. Laura, remember the time frames, or was there anything set for that?
Nothing.
Okay, I was hoping from the IDS side. If we're going to go out to 27th, and I'm too old to do this in one day, I think we need to have it. Think about this. I'm trying to look at the calendar now. That's August. We need to go back. If we're going to go out on the 27th, that would give you all 3 working days. I'm sorry. To work on that. Sandy, is that okay?
Yeah, I think so. What days are those?
That would give us the 30th. It'd be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That would give people. Well, you give them the weekend, but I'm assuming most people won't look at it over the weekend. But you'd give them the weekend of the 28th and 29th, and then 3 working days: 30th, 31st, and 1st.
I don't see how we have a whole lot of choice, Bob.
I'm sorry, but that's, I think now from everybody's materials, Is it reasonable to think that everybody gets them in by the 23rd, close of business? How about on the IDS side?
Yeah, I think we probably could. This is Amit. What would be helpful for us, though, is to see some examples of some of the language you're writing for some of the sections. So we better know.
I think, didn't you guys receive the first draft of the vision?
I got the first draft of the vision, and I think I've seen some of the EI&A stuff. It would be really helpful to see some of the Wagner-Pizer employer and job seeker language.
No, but we can, I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? Or I think, why don't we commit to get our side draft over to them by the close of business on Thursday? Just what we have, and I'll help organize that. How about that?
Yeah, that works, Bob, and I can just call you after this, and we can...
Yeah, and then, well, why don't we get on the phone then on Friday? Is that okay?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, so I'll send you some time to call, but we'll get our stuff over to your side by Thursday, close the business on Thursday, then you and I get on the phone on Friday, and then and we'll talk about where we're at.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, Mike?
Everybody check your mute buttons.
We got somebody with nice music, but get off mute, please. Or get off hold.
Chelsea, can you mute everybody?
Hey, Bob, can you mute everyone else from your side?
We're trying that right now and see if we can do that. Well, with that in mind, with those time frames that we have out there, obviously that's a tight time frame, but it's doable.
Can I run one thing? Sure. I'm assuming is, does everybody need to see, other than the agencies, does everybody need to see all those assurances? Other than the agencies that they're relevant to.
You have been muted.
Does that make sense? That makes it a much smaller document for you guys to look over. And obviously, I think you'd have more questions about the assurances than comments. Is that okay? Lori, what do you think? In terms of just sending them out everything but the assurance on the 27th?
Your microphone has been turned on.
And then we're down to probably 30 pages?
I would hope no more than that.
So I think 30 pages is enough to ask of you all.
I'm not going
Mitch, we can't go single space in here. We can't go microtype.
How could you allow us just one page?
COL.
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, we can, if you have some really just burning hot stuff, we'll see what we can do to accommodate you.
So I guess to summarize, Sandy, if it's run it by you, make sure it's okay. So we will work inside the agencies to get this thing out on the 27th. We will then, I think we'll have, when we email it out, if people have questions, we'll have contact information for people to call if they have questions. Then we'll assume that if people have, we urge you all, if you have burning concerns or questions, call before the August 2nd or send emails before August 2nd. If they're just wording issues, like, we want to change words or something like that, then that's great for the 2nd. But you got to realize on the 2nd, after we get the final things, we're going to be asking you to approve it. And then everything else we do is going to get it in fancier shape to go out to public comment the following Monday, which is mostly text editing or fixing, when I say editing, I mean proofing, to make sure we have proper grammar or there's spelling problems or page numbering or table references so that we can post it on the 6th.
Bob, the only thing I would say to that is that wording can be a serious thing, and so sometimes wording makes all the difference. So,
but I'm just saying, send us wording changes. Send us
Oh, okay, I thought you meant to wait on those till the second.
No, if it's like, oh my God, I caught a typo,
No, I'm not talking
that's cool. But if you're saying is the way you describe shifting gears is an abomination and is affront to everybody in the world, then call.
Okay, got it.
And then so we can make that a barrel. So and if we get some substantial changes, we can always send that out as an email to the group about what's been changed or what's being in process of changing. So everybody's ready to go on the second when we can whip through it. Hopefully, we can whip it through pretty fast.
Okay, Bob, let me just jump in here. I've been through this in a prior life. Is Saul going to be around during all these days, or is he not going to be in vacation? I want to pick one point of contact on your end, and then have them responsible for making the distribution, because otherwise everybody may think somebody else is taking care of something. And then you had also mentioned if you see something to call. I would highly recommend we avoid phone calls and we try to do this through email.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sandy. So why we have this is that we'll have one person be in charge of distribution of material, and then we'll have a contact person for emails to go to for taking comments that are something that's major.
That's right. Please do that, okay?
Okay.
You just make the decision and email everybody who it is, and that way they won't have to worry if you or Michael or Saul or anybody who got the message.
Okay, right, that's a good point.
Because we don't have, the way this is working, I just kind of jotting the dates down here, Bob, we really don't have a day to spare. I mean, it's really, really incredibly tight. And if people could, if in that 3-day time frame, I know this is a lot to ask, but if you get the chance, try to do it in the first, try to do it as soon as possible, because if everybody waits till the 4 o'clock on the last day, it's going to make things pretty impossible.
That is true. And what we do is we're going to be on the 27th, and if there are major changes, substantive changes, Sandy, what do you think about us sending out the day before the track changes from the version that was received on the 27th?
Yeah, only if they're substantial, though, Bob. If they're just grammar or just, word change here and there, don't mess with that. If they're substantial and they change the intent or they change the direction you're headed, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, and then, Sandy, is it okay? We'll still have some grammar and text editing done on August 3rd and through the weekend, which we'll put it in a format, and so there'll be there'll be grammar checks, spelling checks, so it may move slightly, but not, it's all grammar and spelling, it's not substance.
Yeah, and I really, pardon me for saying, but I really would rather that the people, if they're going to take the time to look at this and to try to comment on it, if you happen to catch some really bad grammar or bad word, but I'd hate to turn everybody into grammar checkers. I'd rather have them look at this thing for content and assume that you and the computers are going to do the grammar and spelling pretty well.
Got it. That's fair.
That sounds good.
Like Christine's question, who would you like to have submitted, or is that?
Okay, that's the issue that Sandy was raising. We'll check with Saul and make sure what his schedule is like. And it'll either be Saul or Laura, because I know I'm going to be out a few days. So we'll just check and make sure who's going to be around.
It'll be on the email.
But it'll be on email. We'll notify everybody in writing as to who they can expect material from and who they should provide material to. So it should be very clear as the process that we'll be using going forward.
Then the August 2nd time, Mike, was that decided?
Mm-hmm. Then we plan to reconvene formally as we are now on August 2nd from 1 p.m. Until 3 p.m. or as how much time ever is needed. So that's a Thursday, August 2nd from 1 to 3.
So at that point, we're going to go through the...
And we're going to be seeking if the chair is comfortable with it, then we'd be asking for approval of the group.
Yeah, I think we have to expect that. Just as a rough guess, Bob or Michael, Mike, what do you think the size of this document's going to be in terms of pages?
With everything involved, I'm hoping, around 50. But, we're going for quality here, not quantity. So if we can say everything we need to say in 40, that's fine. If it needs to be 55 or 60, that's fine too. But it's definitely not going to be the 200-page tome that we've had for the last decade.
Good. Okay. That being the case, on the second, if people have not had the opportunity to email your comments, and I strongly urge everybody to do that, if they would have the page or pages in front of them that they want to discuss at the meeting, that would be helpful so we don't have to go through the document page by page during the meeting.
Right. Our goal at that meeting would just be to kind of open up the floor and kind of walk people through, the high-level points and see if there's any discussion at that point, and hopefully, it'll be a very quick conversation on the second.
Well, okay, then here's the question. So let's just say someone emails an issue that's substantive. Where does that get resolved? Before the meeting?
It would be discovered in track changes, and we'll send it out again before the second.
Right.
Okay.
Track change. But Sandy doesn't want track changes on anything of
No, I understand. No, but what I'm getting at is then is there an opportunity on the second? When does that?
We have to work it out right then.
That's what I meant. Right then or on the second?
On the second.
That's what I meant. Okay. That's what I was trying to.
Yeah, I mean, well,
Yeah, because I don't see where there's going to be a chance for dialogue to work it out. You're just sending an email with a question and you're.
Okay, so no, here's my understanding, Sandy. Correct me if I'm going to make sure that we're with the spirit of the chair here. The idea would be if we got grammar changes, just put them in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Substantive changes. If we have substantive changes that, and if we have questions, we'd have to call Sandy to see if we have a question of whether it's substantive or not. We put them in track changes, and we submit. Probably close the business. I'm sorry on the first.
Yeah.
We put out track changes for the meeting itself.
Okay.
That's right.
So okay, I'm not trying to. I'm sorry, you guys.
I know what she's asking now. Yeah, we're not going to. I don't think we want to have substantive email dialogue on the recommended changes. I think that is what the meeting on the second is for. If we all know what the recommended changes are, what Bob's calling the track changes, that's what we should be prepared to discuss on the second.
Okay.
Because we're assuming you're okay with everything you read on what you got on the 27th, except for the things that you want to change.
And that's where we send an email.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
That was going to be my next statement. If you say nothing and you have not commented on this, we are going to assume that you like it.
I agree. Yeah.
Perfect.
I agree, Sandy. I just needed clarifying about what was going to go on the second.
And there's no buyer's remorse.
And then,
Great clarification.
and then we have a couple days built into the schedule following the second to incorporate anything that comes up in a discussion on the second. So basically the practice has been say, okay, we understand what you want, we'll make that change to reflect what you want. Will you be able to approve this based on us incorporating what it is you say you want? Okay.
But again, I want to make it. We're going to stress this. We really don't expect any hand grenades to come out on the second. If you have a hand grenade, get it to everybody before they send it out, so we can have a chance to discuss it. On the second. Okay.
Great thought. That's a great thought.
Want me to recap dates and stuff?
Otherwise, we'll never get done. We'll never make it.
Okay, now, Laura Dom has been keeping track of all these dates that are flying around here, so she's going to run through them one last time so everybody is clear on what we've all just discussed.
Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put an email together. We're going to designate a person for distribution that you'll be getting documentation from. We'll be designating a person for comments, which are due by close of business the 1st of August, and we will distribute all the documents that are out there as of today. The second thing is all drafts from DCEO will be submitted to IDES by close of business on Thursday the 19th, so that you can get an idea of our voice. The next thing is all of the information from IDES will be due to the person designated in the email on close of business July 23rd. Everything will then be sent but the assurances section to the task force on July 27th. And then on August 2nd, when we have our next webinar, we'll be seeking final comment and work through any issues that have been brought up that have been submitted to the designated person for comments by August 1st.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you put that in an email to the group?
I will add that to the email.
Thank you, Laura. All right, so are there any additional questions or concerns at this point? Now's the time. If not, Sandy, you asked the opportunity to make a closing comment, so I guess now would be the time for that.
Kelly Waller.
Okay, great. That's great. And Michael, were you the one that said you were going to be gone a couple days during that time frame?
Yeah, I had a priorly scheduled commitment for that last week of July, first week of August.
You must have gotten an email from the governor. We'll have to get that checked out, right, Bob?
Yes. So,
No, I'm going to be subbing for Mike that week, Sandy.
Bob and Laura and Saul should all be around.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody again, and I wanted to stress, although we have done it during the call, that please don't plan on leaving your comments to surface until our last meeting. If you do that, and if there's anything substantive, if we get into any kind of major conversation, we won't make the deadline. We really can't discuss new substantive things and get all those changes made on the second. So please respond via email so that you can give the folks down there a chance to get things back to you, so that we know what the questions are when we start the meeting at 1 o'clock on the 2nd. Okay. That's it. Thank you, everybody, very much. I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, and we appreciate the fact that you committed to this.
Thank you.
Thanks for your leadership, Sandy.
Okay.
Take care.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.